Folks, you know how Orangina pervilicious Felonia Schlemper McPhee is unable to admit he's wrong about anything ever? Well, I can't help but wonder what lengths he would go to prove it if he was to become president again. I mean, for example, if another pandemic was to break out during a second Orangina term, he'd actually be hamstrung from doing things right the second time, because that would prove he did things wrong the first time, and he'd never admit to that. He'd have to go about proving he was right all along about masking, distancing, and lockdowns being worthless, woke efforts to control people. He'd have to squelch all media from reporting on it. Numbers would have to be manipulated. Leadership would have to be tasked with acting like it wasn't a thing. He'd probably have to outlaw vaccines or make up stories to prove they cause autism or heart attacks or impotence. He'd have to assemble a team to go about proving hydroxychloroquine is a universal remedy. He'd have actors playing scientists showing that disinfectants are safe and effective via injection. Knowing him, he'd come up with a product for introducing light into the body to cure disease, like a $250 mini flashlight that you shine in your mouth. Or, I suppose, other points of entry into the body. Yeah, he would. What about climate change? If catastrophic weather events were to make folks speculate that he'd been wrong about increasing carbon emissions, would he stop all reporting on climate disasters? Would he make scientists come up with a whole new theory about why storms and fires and floods and tornadoes were increasingly common, with no connection at all to pre-existing climate science? Would some kind of weather genius have to hold a news conference to announce that Orangina is especially gifted at predicting the path of a hurricane? Would he have to change weather reports so nobody would know when a tornado had ripped through a neighborhood? Would we never be the wiser because the media would be state-run and social media would be blocked and gatherings of people would be monitored? If gun violence was to spike even more during an Orangina presidency, what lengths would he go to prove good guys with guns were saving the country from bad guys with guns? If mass shootings were to happen, would he order the narratives rewritten so the shooters always appeared to be migrants or gender non-conforming people or Antifa? If tainted food was to cause illnesses across the country because of regulations he did away with, would we even know about it? If he was to take issue with a mosque or a liberal arts school or a company that produces pride merchandise, would he stage a fraud case or manufacture a crisis or a crime or a made-up anti-American demonstration? Would he mess with federal financial aid so fewer kids would be able to go to woke colleges? Would he put people of color into high positions and then sabotage them to make it look like they were lazy or dishonest and needed to be replaced by trustworthy white people? What if he couldn't keep up with the deportations and his tent cities became overrun? Would he order the herd to be thinned? Maybe introduce a pathogen or taint the water or food? Or pretend there was a riot and mass casualties were inevitable? Would he send folks to commit crimes in blue states and harm white people in sanctuary cities and then send in the military to make it look like he saved the day? Would he redefine what constitutes consent or assault and make the women who accused him of being predatorial retract their stories or fear for their lives? Would we be able to stand up for truth? Or would we have to do what every woman in the world has had to do at some point? And that is whatever it takes to keep a powerful, narcissistic man as happy as a king. Yeah. Well, Orangina, have the day that you deserve.